Good morning, everyone. So how is it getting up on a Saturday morning to come to Adelphi? Good, I'm so glad to hear that. How many students do we have in the room? Raise your hand. Okay, fantastic. We're so glad to have you here. And how many alums are in the room? How many graduates? Okay, lovely. And then the rest, so those that didn't get to raise their hand either for the first or second question, raise your hand. Let's see who you are. Okay, the friends, we're so glad to have you too. My name is Ann Loudon, and I'm responsible for external relations here, and that means the Alumni Relations Program and Special Events is part of the group that put this event together with Career Services. This is our first time Women's Leadership Conference, and we will make this an annual event. There are so many things for each of you today, and I know that you've signed up for a variety of reasons. But there is, the order of the day is that first you'll hear from Dr. Riordan, whom I'll introduce in just a moment, and then we have a wonderful keynote speaker who's going to inspire you and to give you ideas, and then we'll move into the opportunity for you to choose one of two sessions, and then lunch and the roundtables. So without further ado, let me introduce our president to you, Dr. Christine Riordan. She is the 10th president of Adelphi, and guess what? The first female. And aren't we excited about that? Dr. Riordan has brought a vision to the university that's different and more dramatic and more inspiring than any the university has had. And I, brand new to Adelphi since the spring, have had an opportunity to meet a lot of our alums and donors who said to me unanimously, this is a breath of fresh air. I was with someone yesterday in Manhattan who talked about being so inspired by Dr. Riordan's message and by the way she's already begun to put her stamp on this institution. So, Dr. Riordan, we're so glad to have you this morning. Would you bring greetings to the group?
So I'm actually inspired to see this room today. I was kind of reflecting back 35 years ago when I was 17, I started college. And I went to the Georgia Institute of Technology, and there weren't very many women there studying engineering. And I was often the only woman in the class. And I remember a faculty member saying, "You girl in the yellow shirt," and I kind of looked around me, and I thought, gosh, I'm the only one with like a female name on the roll. You know, I would think you would be able to know my name. But you know, as I've moved through my career, one of the things that I've really been passionate about is empowering women and helping women develop. You know, I feel a little bit of regret because I don't feel like I've made enough progress, and I don't feel like we've made enough progress in the 35 years since I started my college career. But, you know, it doesn't mean that we stop. And I think really today is about empowering ourselves, empowering each other, and really thinking about our role and how we develop other people, both men and women, as we move throughout our careers. I hope you're going to take advantage of today and network with one another and really spend the time getting to know one another, because I tell you, my network has really made a huge difference in my life. And I can say that as I kind of move into the latter part of my career. You know, I think that Gloria Vanderbilt said it best. She said, "I always believe that one woman's success can only help another woman's success." And, you know, I really get inspired when I see other women achieving. I also get inspired when I see men achieving as well, but that's really what today is all about. I know you've seen a lot of headlines lately in the news, certainly around sexual harassment and discrimination, and, you know, it's certainly something that many of us have experienced, and, you know, I hope that we continue to make progress in that area, but I also want to give you a few other statistics. So an article was written last year based on a survey, and it says 7% of CEOs of Fortune 1000 companies are women. 7% of CEOs of Fortune 1000 companies are women. We often hold out kind of luminaries, IBM Ginny Rometty, General Motors Mary Barra, and also Indra Nooyi, who is the CEO of Pepsi. But put this into perspective. For just those 3 women CEOs, there's another dozen male CEOs. A survey last year showed that of 10,000 C-level executives, 18% were women, 6.7% were chairs of the board, 7.2% were COOs, and 8.8% were CFOs. It's not just limited to corporations. 1 in 5 members of Congress are women, and only 26% of presidents of college and universities are women. Colleges and universities today are made up of 60% female students. One of the things I think that you can do to really empower yourselves and really think about the difference that you're going to make is I'd love for each and every one of you to get onto the Harvard site, the Harvard Implicit Bias site. It's called Project Implicit. And right at the top, you just register your email, but right at the top, there is an implicit bias test for gender and careers. And it really reflects our values for men and women, working men and women, and it's going to tell you exactly where you might land. And here's the reality. Each and every one of us has a bias, and it's important for us to kind of start recognizing our bias and how they may be impacting the way that we operate in our day-to-day lives. Today is really, as Ann said, kind of a hallmark for us. It's the first Women's Leadership Conference here at Adelphi. I want to thank one of our trustees, Humira Kazi, who will be here later, as the inspiration for this event. She is with KPMG, and KPMG, as you know, is very passionate about diversity and inclusion and really on the forefront of leading many of the diversity initiatives. And she challenged us last year to host this conference, and I know that we're going to continue to get bigger and better as we move forward. I also want to say thank you to Lena Chan, who's one of our trustees here today as well. Most importantly, I want to take just a few moments to introduce our keynote speaker, Kim Petrie. A wise woman once said, if people doubt how far you can go so far that you can't hear them anymore. And Kim has gone pretty far. Do you remember that statistic that I just gave you? 8.8% of CFOs are women. Okay, so Kim is the Executive Vice President and CFO of Paxos, a financial tech company in New York City. She was the CFO at Broadridge. She was the CFO at American Express, supporting $4 billion in revenue. She was Vice President of Corporate Finance with TIAA-CREF, where she led a $400 million cost reduction initiative, which is not an easy thing to do. A YWCA Woman Achiever of the Year, Association of Professional Women of the Year. She has mentored and has been passionate about women throughout her career, and she also started her own program for women, which I hope we hear a little bit about today, called Your Empowered Self. I've invited Kim to join us here in a leadership role at the university to be a part of the President's Advisory Council, and she's already started helping me think more broadly about our strategy. And all of this began when she graduated with a BA in accounting from, guess where? Here at Adelphi. Best of all, Kim lives here in Garden City. She has 2 children. She's married. We're lucky to have her right close by, and she also serves as an adjunct. Please help me in giving a very warm welcome to Kim Petrie.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. I am delighted and honored to be presenting you today at Adelphi's Women Leadership Conference. As you mentioned, empowering and mentoring women has been a passion of mine since the day I started my career, and I am delighted to see Adelphi support women across a variety of disciplines. While women have made significant progress, as mentioned, many women do not reach the senior roles. There is a low number of women who attain C-suite level and senior level positions in comparison to their male counterparts. I did a survey that was a global survey, which was actually even a smaller percentage of CEOs of women are about 4%. So we still have a long way to go. I think we've made a lot of progress, but there's quite a long way to go. There are many reasons for this disparity. Some of it is just because women opt out or choose to take lesser roles because of family obligations and home obligations. However, success has many ingredients. And I have spent over 20 years in senior finance and accounting roles and have been fortunate to have had several strong female mentors at critical points throughout my career. What has impacted me most is the guidance that I receive from them. Success has several ingredients. Some is attributable to hard work, being in the right place at the right time, your leadership abilities, and many other variables. I thought it might be helpful for me to share some of my own experiences and some of the lessons that I have learned from other women who have mentored me along the way, that could have been significant obstacles in my career, but ended up being learning lessons and ended up helping me move forward and see things from a different perspective. And hopefully some or all of what I share today will be useful to you in your journey as you attain the level that you wish to rise to. Number one, be open to constructive feedback and do not internalize it. Women and men are wired very differently. So when it comes to receiving feedback, as women, sometimes we can become emotional and internalize what we perceive as criticism. To demonstrate what I'm referring to, I had an encounter early on in my career that could have been taken in many different ways and gone in many different directions. At the age of 32, I became managing director at U.S. Trust. U.S. Trust is a very formal, stuffy place that basically manages wealth for very wealthy individuals. So it's very formal. I was the youngest managing director at the time, and there were very few women managing directors. I think there was a total of 4 in the company of about 5,000 people. I worked my way hard through the ranks, and I was so proud to have gotten there at the age of 32. So one day I was in a meeting, and shortly after the meeting, the corporate secretary, who was one of those 4 women, pulled me aside and said to me, "You need to upgrade your image." And I was absolutely shocked. I was floored. I said, "I just made managing director? What do you mean upgrade my image? I have nice suits, I'm always neat, I'm clean. What is she talking about?" And I got offended. I was offended. My initial reaction was anger, but I walked away. I said, "Thank you," walked away, went home that night, and was still angry. I got defensive. I'm like, why would she say that? I wear nice suits. They're not bargain basement suits. But I started to think about it. And I started to reflect on those 4 women who were in those senior roles. And I started to think there is a difference in their presentation and how they look. They're playing a senior role. You need to dress to a senior role. There is a difference in the perception that people had of them because of the way that they dressed and presented themselves. So after a short period of time, after I took a step back, I started to see the truth in what she had said. And I started to let go of that anger and said, you know what can I take from this? What can I learn from this? And that weekend, I went out and bought a few more higher-end suits, more in line with what the senior women were wearing at the organization. And I got them. I figured it was a good investment to make, and I upgraded my image, as she had suggested. I was now presenting that image of a managing director, which the culture of that company required. Not every company is the same, and you'll find that as you go along in your careers, but that culture required me to have those suits. And almost overnight, people started treating me differently. They started to have a much different image of me in terms of being a senior. Even though I was young, I was the youngest one there, they started treating me very differently in terms of their approach to me. And so it was a really good learning lesson because perception is reality to most people. So it's important to listen to feedback from a constructive position and not defensive. The first reaction, especially at my age at the time, was to be very defensive. Like, why would you even say that to me? But instead of internalizing it, either learn from it, or if it's not constructive, move on. Don't hold on to it. As one of my mentors told me very early on, it's just business. If you take everything to heart, it will eat you up inside eventually. And so if you take feedback as criticism, it will erode your confidence. Take it objectively, make the changes that are valuable to you, and move on from a position of strength. Number 2, overall, feedback is extremely important. And I know sometimes it's hard to hear. But instead of waiting for feedback, ask for feedback and receive it with an open mind. I have always asked people more senior than myself, or my bosses, what I could be doing better and where my weaknesses lied. I listened to the feedback very carefully and I absorbed the feedback because it can be one of the most powerful things you can do for your career. I also regularly ask for feedback from the junior staff as well as my peers. When people provide honest feedback, it helps to improve your performance and makes you better at what you do. What may work in one company and may be perceived as a strength in one company might be a weakness in another. So it's important to be objective and not be defensive. Make sure you weigh carefully what you hear. In several of my roles, we did a 360-degree feedback, and that's when employees, peers, and people senior to you actually review you anonymously. And I got really good feedback one year, but there was one section in that feedback that had said, 2 people anonymously said I didn't return phone calls. And once again, my first reaction was, but I always return phone calls. I never forget to return any phone calls. But the reality was, it gave me pause. Because somewhere there were 2 division leaders that I did not return phone calls to. So there was a perception out there that I didn't care about those divisions, or they weren't important enough for me to call it back. So once again, instead of internalizing it, I said, you know what, very easy thing, I'm gonna make a list of who calls me every day, what time, and then make sure I note that I call them back, because I obviously have the perception out there that I am not returning phone calls to certain areas. It was a simple correction, but it really helped me with my relationships within the organization. Number 3, I can't stress this enough, help and support other women. Men do it all the time. They help each other out and they hook each other up, yet women are not the same. In many instances, there is fierce competition between women. I see it even during the teenage years of my daughter. We tend to be highly critical of each other. We tend to evaluate what people are wearing, how they act, what they say. Men don't do that. They help each other out, and they will actually help each other get promoted in many instances. They help pull their friends up along the way. We need to do more of the same. We need to support each other and not view each other all the time as competition. We need to believe in our own selves and our own self-worth and have the confidence to be able to support each other. If a man is aggressive, then it's great, yet if a woman is aggressive, we tend to look at them in a very negative light. We need to take those stigmas away and support each other in our endeavors. The more we stop criticizing each other and start embracing each other's strengths, the more progress that we can make. Number 4, if possible, and this is not always possible, but if possible, find a successful women mentor. If not, find a senior male that is willing to work with you for someone who you admire that can provide mentorship to you. Observe women that you do admire and have attained the level that you hope to aspire to. I have been blessed to have had some of the most incredible women mentors in my career. I cherish those relationships, and they have provided me with insight and guidance throughout my career that I could have never gotten anywhere else. If you admire someone senior than you, man or woman, see if you can develop a relationship with them. Ask for their advice. See if they wouldn't mind spending just a little bit of time with you and sharing their experiences, their successes, and their failures. It has been one of the biggest drivers in my career. Also, find time to mentor women if you can. It makes a big difference to those who are just starting out. It really is, I can't begin to explain how powerful it is. Every holiday, I still receive emails from people that I have mentored, and it gives me great satisfaction to know that I contributed to their success. Lastly, network. Take time to have coffee with someone you respect and learn about them and their career. Find out about their successes and their failures. If you are early on in your career, meet professionals and learn what you can from them. Learn about different types of professions within your discipline and see what they're about and what they like and what they don't like. Recently, a friend of mine referred a daughter of her friend to me, as this daughter was trying to start out her career in human resources and did not know where to begin. She did not know me, but she had gone around and asked her family and friends for people in business that she could connect with and have conversations with. So she contacted me. She put together a very well-written email about her objective, and her objective was to find a role in human resources. She was just starting out. She asked me to coffee, and she was very well put together, and she sat with me and explained her position and what she was trying to do. And from there, she also met with many other people who had been recommended. I could not give her a job at the time, but I hooked her up with other people, and they hooked her up with other people. She followed up with each and every one of them, and that's really very critical and important. And what happened was she ended up getting a job at a company where she knew no one, but it was the company of her choice. So she ended up meeting the right people to get her to the right place from the effort that she put in. So networking is so incredibly important throughout your career. Whatever level that you're at, make sure you network. Stay in touch with people, follow up. If you have a good lead or someone who refers you to someone else, make sure you follow up with them and make sure that you connect with them, because it is extremely powerful in the world of today. Number 5, speak up for what you want and know your worth. I was always aggressive at work, yet when it came to myself and self-promotion and asking for a raise, I was a quiet mouse. I never would bring up anything of my successes. I had trouble asking for a raise, and I was very uncomfortable with self-promotion. And I find that a lot of women really are very uncomfortable with it. When I had made senior vice presidents at one of the companies I worked with, so did a male who was also a senior vice president, and he was running strategy for the same boss. So he came to me and said, we're underpaid. We need to get paid more. We're very underpaid as SVPs. We need to go and ask for a raise. And my first reaction was, I'm not going to ask for a raise. I can't do that. I just wasn't comfortable. So he stayed on top of me, and he kept saying, we need to go, we need to go. And finally he said, well, I'm going to go without you. And it made my decision, and I said, you know what, I'll put together a few bullet points on what I've done and my successes, and I'll go. And so we went. We met with our boss at the time, and within 30 minutes, we had gotten ourselves a pretty nice raise. So I walked away from that, and it was great that I had gotten the raise, but I learned something very important that day. If I had not gone, and he had just gone and promoted all the work he had done, he would have gotten a raise. I would not have. And I just wasn't comfortable at that point doing that, but I learned that you have to really advocate for yourself. No one else is going to do it. Without being cocky, you can promote yourself and be your own best advocate. Know your worth and be proud of it, and celebrate your successes. Number 6, and this is probably the most significant mentor I've had in my career, said to me, be proud to be a woman. When I first started working, a lot of the women were wearing pantsuits, and they had cut their hair very short and tried more to fit in the male genre, and I was worried about it. I was in finance and accounting, and it's a very formal profession, and I have blonde hair, and I like nice colors, and that is a little bit of a conflict. And I said to her, what should I do? Should I change my appearance? Should I change, who I am, pretty much? And she turned around and said, she told me, be proud that you're a woman. Of course you have to fit into your profession. Of course you have to fit into the culture, but be very proud of who you are. So make that work for you. And I did. I put up my hair, of course, because you have to do what you need to do for whatever culture you're working in. But I always tried to bring in colorful shirts or a colorful skirt to be proud that I was a woman. I wore skirt suits a lot as opposed to pantsuits. And that really stuck with me, because instead of conforming to being more in the male role, I decided on that day when she told me that to be very proud that I was a woman in business. And that has helped me along the way. Number 7, do not internalize your mistakes and failures. This is a really hard thing to do. But as women, we tend to take things to heart. Most women I know will internalize something negative that has happened in their life, and it will let it impact them for a long period of time. I worked with a woman at one of the companies I was at who was, when I was there, in a junior role. And I understood that she had been a very senior professional at the time, at some point in time. And I asked a colleague, why? Why is she in a junior role if she was a senior professional? What happened? And she had had one failure, just one failure. The company didn't put her in a junior role, but she lost all her confidence from that failure. And she let it affect her, and she let it impact her. And she slowly backed up her career because she lost all the confidence in who she was. We all make mistakes, and we all have failures. However, it's how you handle those mistakes and failures that really counts. Be accountable, of course, but then learn from them and move on. Do not internalize your missteps, as it will impact your confidence and ultimately impact your leadership. Instead of beating yourself up, learn what you can from it. Move forward from a position of greater knowledge, which will give you strength, as opposed from internalizing those failures. Number 8, be confident in who you are. I cannot stress this enough. Be confident in yourself. When I first started working at PwC, I started at the level of staff, and I would look at the seniors and think, I can never do that job. That job looks too hard. And then I made senior, and it was no problem. And then I'd look at the managers and do the same thing. Instead of taking that approach, be confident in your abilities and say, yes, I can do it. If you have a goal, figure out what experience you need and make a plan to make that happen. Know what you want and know what you don't want. If you are in a role and feel it's not for you, move to your plan B. If you are at a company that's a bad culture fit, don't think it's you, find your next role. Make sure you are confident in what you want and where you want to go. Do not allow anything to shake the confidence that you have in yourself. That confidence that you feel inside will be reflected in your actions and your words. If your confidence is on a shaky foundation, then it will come across in all that you do. Believe in yourself and ultimately what you want to do, and let that confidence shine from within. Find your voice and believe in it. While being a career woman can bring many challenges, and it is a tough climb, I believe we all contain the success we seek. Success means something different to each and every one of us. So whatever role or level you are striving to attain, I hope you can take something from what I have learned and apply it to your career going forward. Support each other and learn from each other. Taking some of the steps I mentioned today can have a very powerful impact on your career and can lead you in directions you never thought possible. I wish you all tremendous success and hope you have a fantastic time at today's event. Thank you.
To the students, I say, how lucky are you get to hear this now in your career. I saw some of you taking notes. And to the rest of us, this was perfect, Kim. Kim and I had an opportunity to be in a car traveling from Manhattan from a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I learned so much about her in that personal moment. I got to see two things about you that I think you said in your message today. One is that she's an initiator. You know, she makes things happen. And when you made your points, if you take from that you can be strategic about your life and you can make things happen, the chances of your success are so much greater. So I'm afraid people are going to be lined up to ask you to be their mentor. We'll hide you in a room. But that was just terrific, and we're so grateful. We have a gift for you, so if you'll come back here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.